There's been a lot of talk recently about Mastodon as a replacement for Twitter. I'm going to talk a little bit about what Mastodon is today in this video. I'm not going to use the video to talk about the rights or wrongs or whatever is happening over at Twitter. That's a debate for somewhere else. Just going to talk about the technology that is Mastodon and kind of give you a quick overview of how you can use Mastodon in addition to Twitter or as a replacement for Twitter. So let's jump right into it and get started. So let's start off talking about what Mastodon is. And I'm just going to go directly from the joinmastodon.org doc site, which I'll link down below. It is a microblog. So just like Twitter, it's the act of publishing updates to a website here. It's just small updates to a stream updates on a profile. You know, you see microblogging on things like Twitter or on Facebook and Twitter and all those other ones, right? It's just the same kind of thing. You can publish texts and attach media such as pictures, audio, video, or polls. Pretty simple, right? We all know what it is. That's what Twitter basically does. And then let's talk about federation. It's a form of decentralization, and that's a big thing with Mastodon. Mastodon runs on a platform that is decentralized. That prevents somebody from owning the entire platform, such as what Twitter is. Twitter's owned by a company, or Twitter is a company. And so it's completely controlled within the company. Instead of a single central service that all people use, there are multiple services that any number of people can use. And you can see the different levels of centralization. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those kind of social media sites are centralized in their, or completely centralized. Federated, things like email, XMPP, phone networks, physical mail, those are all a federated type of centralization, and distributed are things like BitTorrent, IPFS, and Scuttlebutt. A Mastodon website, which really that's what each of these instances are, can operate alone, just like a traditional website. People sign up on it, they post messages on it, they upload pictures and talk to each other. Unlike a traditional website, Mastodon websites interoperate, letting their users communicate with each other. So if you go to a specific Mastodon website and you sign up there, as long as that particular Mastodon site or instance is not blocked by others, you should be able to see messages on other sites if you follow those folks or whatnot. And it's basically an interaction between all of those instances. So it says, unlike traditional, they interoperate, letting their users communicate with each other, just like you can send email from your Gmail account to your Outlook or your Fastmail, your ProtonMail, whatever. As long as you know their email address, you can send messages to them, you can see their email. You can mention or message anyone on any website using their address. And so here is some examples from the joinmastodon.org document site. This is centralized, so everything is controlled here. This is federated, so things kind of just talk to each other this way. You can have subset groups like this one's federated with a small group. These all talk to each other. And then you have distributed in this image right here. So Mastodon runs on something called ActivityPub. It's a standardized open protocol, and that is used to implement the federation. Any software that implements the federation via ActivityPub can communicate with Mastodon, just like websites communicate with each other. So here are a number of applications that use the ActivityPub. And they do that, meaning they then can communicate with Mastodon. So you have Palomora, PixelFed, MissKey, PureTube, Plume, and there's just dozens and dozens of more different applications that run on the fediverse using ActivityPub that can all interoperate with each other. Mastodon is just one of those many, and it's the one that looks most like Twitter when we're talking about a comparison between Twitter and Mastodon. The Fediverse does not have its own brand, so you might often hear follow me on Mastodon other than follow me on the Fediverse. Really, people are jumping on the Fediverse when they're connected to a Mastodon instance, but you'll hear follow me on Mastodon. And like it says, the latter is actually technically more correct. Now, because Mastodon is decentralized, you really have a choice of service provider and policy. It's just software that runs on servers, and potential users of Mastodon have an option of choosing a service provider from an already existing Mastodon website or create their own. I have built my own Mastodon server primarily to play with it, just to see how it operates. So I'm running Mastodon on an Amazon EC2 instance, for example, right now, and my identity is tied to my Mastodon server. You can create their own. Like I said, Mastodon project maintains a list of recommended service providers over at Join Mastodon, which is this site right here. And if you look at servers, you can come over here and you can choose a region, and then you can choose a topic. So let's say I want to choose North America, and I want to choose a topic of technology. Well, these then are the Mastodon servers that have committed to the Mastodon server covenant. Not every server is going to be listed on this website. These are ones that have agreed to the server covenant and have also submitted their server on here so that it can be approved and added. So mine, for example, is not on here, even though it's a technology one. Not because I don't agree to these things, just because I haven't done it yet, and I don't necessarily need it listed on here. You've got the general ones here as well, some of these. And you could tell by some of these domain names that what kind of stuff is on the server. So one of the things you have to be careful about is if you don't want to be affiliated with a particular type of thought, then you need to make sure you're not putting your identity on a server that you don't agree with. So those are a bunch of servers you can find to join. It maintains a list of recommended service providers sortable by category and language. Then you have some websites. And remember, I'm using Mastodon instances and websites interchangeably. So Mastodon is a website. They may have moderation policies that go beyond this, such as requiring the use of certain tags on potentially sensitive content. Some websites may have more relaxed moderation policy. But all websites listed in the joinmastodon.org agree to that Mastodon server covenant. They pledge to actively moderate against hate speech, take daily backups, and have at least one emergency admin. And then they must provide 3 months advance notice in case of a shutdown. So if I decide I want to turn my server off, I would have to give everyone 3 months of advance notice so they can migrate their accounts onto another Mastodon instance somewhere. So for fun, since I set up a Mastodon server, I don't have a backup admin, and I don't necessarily want to make backups. It's just for me to play with. You're welcome to join my Mastodon server, but it's up to you if you want to do it without knowing the fact that maybe it's going to get turned off at some point. Funding, all this stuff is about funding and monetization. Everything is operated by different people, organizations, completely independently. Nothing is funded by Mastodon itself. Some server operators choose to offer paid accounts. Some are companies who can utilize their existing infrastructure. Just depends on what it's set up. I'm paying for my own Mastodon server on my EC2 instance that I'm using for other stuff anyway, so it's there. But if I decide it becomes too expensive, maybe one day I decide, okay, we're going to go away. And then in practical terms, the interoperability between different software. If you could follow an Instagram user from your Twitter account and comment on their photos without leaving your account, and if Twitter and Instagram were federated services that use the same protocol, that would be possible. With a Mastodon account, you can communicate with any other compatible website, even if it is not running Mastodon. All it's necessary is the software support, the same subset of ActivityPub protocol that allows for creating and interacting with status updates. So it's all based on that ActivityPub, and that's the way it works. And you can read more about technical specifications required to interrupt with Mastodon if you want to. See ActivityPub, Web Finger, and Security. And then if you want to read more about what ActivityPub allows us to do, you can read about why they're saying it's the future. All right, I think that pretty much covers that part of what Mastodon is. To recap, it's just a website that runs on ActivityPub, and it allows you to talk to other servers and platforms under the same ActivityPub protocol. So let's talk about signing up for an account. So the first thing you want to do is choose your website, understanding their policies, their sign-up nodes, and then you need your username and your domain. So again, we can look at some of these here. North America, we'll go to technology again. And let's say I wanted to apply for an account. Now, let me point this out. Some of these have open registrations. Some of them require you to actually apply for an account for approval. So most of these here are set up to apply for an account. And my guess is with the influx, and I think I read something like 2 to 3,000% increase in Mastodon usage since this whole Twitter thing started, that some of these sites are probably getting overrun with applications or users. Now, I don't know for sure if these have always been this way, but you would want to find one and then either apply for an account or create an account. We'll just click on this one for just a moment. You can create an account on this if this is a site that you feel like you want to be a part of. And so you just do that. You look for that here, and then you would create an account. And when you go to create an account, you're going to have to agree to their rules. This particular service says be nice, mark sensitive content with a content warning, no spam or no advertisements, and then no hate speech. If you accept that, then you can sign up for this right here. Now, I'm not going to do that because I already have actually 2 or 3 Mastodon accounts already. I don't even need all those. I only need the one, but I was playing around with it. All right, so you pick a site, understand their policies, and then the different sign-up modes. Just like signing up an email provider or Word or whatever else, the website will be your service provider hosting your account, your profile, and your home feed. So if you sign up on my server, your Mastodon account would be at whatever name you choose at mostlychris.net. That's mine, my particular Mastodon server. You need to understand the policies before you sign up. It's important to understand the policies and terms of use. A Mastodon website will usually have its policy listed under About More. And so under mine, if I go to About More on mine, let me pull it up. You can see my policies here, server rules, and you can read through all these. If you like, if you agree with them, then you can sign up for this. If you don't, then I wouldn't sign up for an account on this server. And it's true of any server. Okay. Then there's sign-up modes, which I talked about. Mastodon allows website administrators to set one of 3: open, invites, and approval. So under open, you can just register immediately, fill out the form, and you're ready to go. Invites, you have to require, or you have to have an invite link to be generated and shared in order for people to register. And then approval-based means that you can register, fill out the form, and then you have to wait for your account to be approved by a moderator. Right now, I've got open registration. But if it becomes too much, then I'll have to go to one of these other modes. It's just a way to protect the service from being overrun, and also to make sure that those that are on there agree to certain server rules and whatnot. And then Mastodon usernames consist of 2 parts: the local username, which is that, let's say Alice, and the domain name, example.com is one. So just like an email address, it allows you to skip the second part when addressing people on the same server as you. But you have to keep in mind when sharing your username with other people, you need to include the domain or they won't be able to find you easily. So you can't say this, I'm Alice on Mastodon. You have to say I'm Alice on domain on Mastodon. So mine would be at Mostlychris at mostlychris.net. That's the way. And you can also find it this way, example or .com/Alice or mostlychris.net/mostlychris. Those 2 ways are correct. When you search for people on Mastodon, you put in one of these 2, and it'll link to the person's profile so you can find them. It doesn't matter what server you're on, as long as the server is not blocked, or the instance is not blocked by the server that you're currently on, or the other server is not participating, which it can be completely standalone. You should be able to find that person within the whole fediverse or the whole Mastodon ecosystem. So that it says here the same username can be registered on different servers. There's no way to claim all of them ahead of time. You should not expect Alice at Outlook to be the same person as Alice at Gmail and Alice at Yahoo. So you could have Alice, or in my case, there could be a Mostlychris somewhere out there on a different server. It's a different server or different full username. Mostlychris at whatever would be different than Mostlychris at mostlychris.net, right? A little confusing, but you'll get the hang of it here. Basically, the thing to remember is your username at your server, and that's who you are on Mastodon. Okay, so once you have signed up, let's talk about a few things here in terms of your security. You're going to have whatever your page is going to be, and if I just get rid of this here, this is your home feed page or your home page on your Mastodon server. Most of them look like that. They can be customized. Some servers probably have a little bit different look. But all the ones I've played with so far are pretty similar to this. The things to remember are over here, how your feeds are. And let's talk about preferences first. If you want to go to preferences and appearance, there are some things that you want to, or profile and then appearance. There are some things that you want to make sure you do. Now, first, you can put your display name up here, a little bit of a bio. You can choose a header, and you can choose an avatar. I've got my standard avatar here. Now, these are the things you want to look at. Require follow requests. This is how you control how you get out there on the fediverse, right? You manually control who can follow you by approving follow requests. So if you turn this on, you can't be followed by anyone unless you approve it. This is a bot account. You can do that if you're doing a bot. That's beyond the scope of this video. Suggest account to others. It says recommended here. Allow your account to be discovered by strangers through recommendations, trends, and other features. So if you're posting stuff and other people are boosting it, which is what a retweet basically is called on Mastodon, then you want to be able to have other people see that. You need to leave that turned on. You can turn it off if you're worried about drawing too many followers. Most people want followers, so probably not a concern. If you're trying to hide and be on the social media area, social networks, then that's probably not a good match anyway. And then you can hide your social graph. This will hide who you follow and who follows you. That might be important if you're trying to protect kind of what you're doing or who you are a little bit. This can, when you follow people, they can determine a little bit about you by who you're following in most cases, right? So if you want to hide that, you can do that here. And then you can set some profile metadata and things in here if you want to set up. I've got my web channels or my web pages and all this stuff here listed in my profile so people can see that. A couple of other interesting things here. You can do automated post deletion. You can automatically delete your posts over a certain specific amount of time. So if you want to limit how much time is out there, it'll automatically delete these. Keep in mind that if you automatically delete a post, it's deleted from this instance, this server that you're currently on. If someone has already screenshotted that somewhere else, or a Mastodon server or some sort of Mastodon or some sort of fediverse app out there doesn't honor the deletion process, it may not be deleted. You always should still treat it as once it's out on the internet or out on a network, it's always out there. So you can delete these things if you want, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be completely erased from the internet out there in the world. So just keep that in mind. You can also set some exceptions to that as well. So you may also want to enable two-factor authentication. If you go to your account here and you click on two-factor authentication, you can enable two-factor authentication using an authenticator app. And then of course you have to have your phone and all that stuff that's normal for 2FA. I highly recommend two-factor authentication. All right, so one other important thing is you probably want to back up your account. You can request an archive of your posts and uploaded media. It will be in the ActivityPub format, readable by any compliant software. And then it says you can request an archive every 7 days. So you would click on that and it basically would export your account. If for some reason the server you're on goes away, if you have a backup, then at least you can bring back your posts and things that you lost on the other server. And this is the stuff that's backed up. Follows, lists, followers, and all these things, right? So this gives you all of the information so you don't have to go recreate your entire Mastodon account should somebody delete a server or a server go offline. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk about over on the main home screen here are these timelines. You've got all of these different timelines, and not every application that uses the fediverse is set up the same way. For the web version, this is what it looks like. However, some of the apps don't have some of these. Like, for example, one of the apps, and I can't remember which one, the federated feed is not available or is not defaulted on the screen. So different apps will look a little bit different. But for the web version, this is what you're going to see for the most part, unless one of the websites has modified it, which they can. So if we go to home, this is everything from all of your followers, regardless of the server that they're on. You can see here that PC Magazine is on mastodon.social. That's not my server, but because I followed them, then I can see them on my home feed here. And all that's because it's interactive on the ActivityPub. If you go to local, this is the most recent public post from people whose accounts are hosted on my server here, mostlychris.net. So you'll see everyone that posts on the local server. And then federated are the most recent public posts from people on this and other servers of the decentralized network that the server knows about. So any public post that my server knows about, and it has to know about these different networks or these different instances. Anything on Mastodon.social, anything on bitbang.social, all of these here, infosec.exchange, these public posts on these different servers that my server knows about will show up. And keep in mind, those are public posts only. One other thing I didn't mention was your ability to set up the different types of posts under your account. So if we go to other here, you can set up posting privacy. Everyone can see all your posts. Unlisted, everyone can see, but not listed on the public timelines. So it wouldn't show up on the federated timelines. And then followers only would be only showed to the followers. It might seem complicated at first to understand how Mastodon works, but it really isn't that bad. You just basically have to keep in mind that your username is your username at the instance that you are logged into or registered on. So again, mine is at Mostlychris at mostlychris.net. You've got local timelines, you've got your home feed, and then you've got your federated. You can do direct messages like you do before. Oh, a couple other things that I forgot to mention. When you do this right here, a boost, this is basically a retweet like you would see on Twitter. This is seen by everybody who is following along your feeds. This is a favorite. This is only seen by the person who made this post. It's not seen by everybody. Okay, so those are a couple of things that you got to keep in mind. And of course, you can share these posts as well, like you do on other things. And you can reply back. So terminology is different, but it functions the same way on the Mastodon part of the fediverse, right? Remember, fediverse is the overarching infrastructure, not infrastructure even, the ecosystem. I don't even know, the protocol, whatever your favorite word is, insert it there. It's the thing that all of this stuff runs on. All right, so just a quick overview. Hopefully that helps some of you understand what this whole Mastodon thing is about. If you want to join Mastodon, there's a lot of different things. Just go to joinmastodon.org and figure out what your server is. Again, you're welcome to use my server if you want. Just keep in mind that if it gets overloaded, I may have to lock down registrations at some point and do do approvals on those. Let me know if you have any comments down below. Let me know if you like this content. If you're watching this and you're not a subscriber, just take a moment and push that subscribe button. It'd be very helpful, and I would really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next video.